I wasn't totally shocked, but it was pretty surprising to see that happen. I mean, I'll tell you what I wasn't shocked by when I started seeing the photographs of the kid that did it.
Totally.
Because it's always the same avatar, man. You know, I talked about this in my book about how like the last 24 of the 25 school shootings that we know about came from weak backgrounds, like weak households, usually fatherless homes. In this case, we don't know much about the kid's parents. I tried to get some stuff. Like there's a photograph of him
it's
and
really
his mom.
tough to find.
Yeah, of him and his mom at a graduation ceremony. Nothing on the dad. We know that the parents apparently are social workers. Apparently the dad's a psychiatrist, makes about $300,000 a year. Has published a couple of journals or a couple of books. So it's interesting that his kid had these issues, and he's a trained psychiatrist, and you know it still got to this point. But it's always the same avatar, man. Like it's always the same soft-looking kid. I mean, if you guys haven't seen him here, I'll throw it up on the screen real quick. I'm sure it's not news to most of you, but it's always the same look, man. It's always the exact same look. It's always a soft-looking kid. This guy over here was commenting on Thomas Matthew Crooks in a news media interview. I'm not even going to play it. I mean, I saved it in my Signal chat, Moff. I sent it over to you, but he said something interesting at the end. He said, you know, he was the kind of kid that got bullied, but he was also the kind of kid that kept wearing a mask even after like the beer bug was over. And
that I didn't see. Yeah, I remember them saying like he would show up to school like in hunting gear.
Yeah, like
and he kept
right
himself.
at the very end of the video, this kid over here said that he was the only kid that was still wearing a mask going to school. And I've seen these people, you know, they're the people that drive a car by themselves with a mask and the windows, you know, rolled up. They're the oddballs that sort of socially awkwardly, you know, move around through life. And I've said this many times, and I've shared this on Twitter X, you know, a couple of times this week when I, you know, saw this pop. It's like, if you just put these kids in combat sports and weight training and give them something difficult to do beyond just playing video games and being socially awkward, you will challenge them and force them to lean into difficult areas of life that will improve them, that will make them better. But we're not doing that. We are coddling, we're helicopter parenting these kids. We're giving them participation trophies just for showing up. We're bubble wrapping the shit out of them. They're not getting the toughness and the fortitude that is required of turning a boy into a man. This is not a boy. This is a man. This is an adult man. Does not look like an adult man. This does not look like an adult man. Okay. I know the Mano Swamp is probably all over this, calling him an incel and all that. It's the parents' fault. You know, this is a function of terrible parenting. That's what it is. What are your thoughts on all this, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see, man, that something like this happening, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it's the exact avatar that I would expect. It's a weak-looking, low-T, loner-style kid who clearly does not have a strong, masculine, virtuous presence in his life. I mean, we saw how great kids turn out when their dads are even like psychiatrists. I mean, look at Michaela Peterson, for example. So it's not like just because a guy's got a degree framed in mahogany and he makes this money doesn't mean he's a good guy. Doesn't mean he's a good man. It's good at being a man. It's just it's extra disheartening because I've seen a couple of these things recently, like on Instagram. Every now and then I'll be scrolling into like reels and stuff like that, and people are starting to kind of pick up what we're putting down when we talk about men needing a tribe in a solid band of brothers to bounce things off of and to find a place in a home where you can learn things and you can be unabashedly masculine. And I saw this, I was on the treadmill like 2 hours ago, and this guy was talking about, hey, I invited 8 guys over to my house. We cooked steaks. We had a topic of discussion for the evening, talking about growth and our goals for life. And we're trying to create a space where guys can come just be guys and talk about guy stuff and our struggles and our goals. And it's like the top 12 comments are just like, yeah, and you guys all like blew each other after. You guys are all gay, like this extreme. So it's all of these forces at play that are not only trying to call you, you know, weak or toxically masculine. And even if you transcend that, any sort of male bonding or any sort of male brotherhood is automatically just labeled as, you know, gay or homo or this and that, which is also extremely funny because the people that are so into the pride flag and the rainbow warriors and all of this are the first people to turn around and use it as a slur. So it sucks that a kid that this had to happen. Things could have been a lot worse. There was someone that was killed by this guy in the shooting. There was a bystander, and apparently from everything we've seen, he was a
guy firefighter, wasn't he?
Firefighter, tried to raise his kids right, do the right thing. He gave his life in service to the community. And it's a bad situation, man. And it's a direct result. Like, what I think is so telling about this whole thing is that everybody would rail on Trump about the language he would use in his rhetoric and how, oh, he's a threat to democracy. Look how he talks to people. Look how he uses this language. And he's so, brash. And yet the people that are against him, the Biden administration, are the ones calling him a fascist who needs to be eradicated at any means necessary. And clearly they're not going to stop at something like this.
All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.